So this is the final lab video I'm going to create. The practice labs, you are recommended to do those, and the solutions are available, but obviously the idea is that you do the labs first and then have a look at the solutions if you have any problems, or if you have any difficulties, or if you want to check whether your solution is the same as the actual solution. So I'm not going to create videos for those, I won't be assessing them, so you can do them. You can submit them at any point in the next couple of weeks before, obviously, we reach the end of the semester, but it's really just so that you can practice your programming. So in Lab 12C, we're going to use the third decision statement, which we looked at earlier, which is the if, elif, else statement. So just a quick reminder, this is what it looks like. You can see that instead of going straight from if to else, we have this else if statement. And after each else if statement, you are going to need to have a condition. So this is for use when you have more than two possible outputs. Okay, so in this case, we're saying if the number is less than 0, print negative number, else if it's greater than 0, print positive number, and then else if it's not less than and it's not greater than, it must be exactly 0. And I've put in a link at the beginning of the lab to the W3 Schools websites, which talks you through this, and it's a really useful page, so I strongly recommend that you read that first before you do this lab. Okay, so we're going to be creating a program which asks the users to input 2 grades and to output whether the student has passed, is borderline, or has failed. And so if we scroll down, you can see we've got the average grade score. If it's between 1 and 48, it's going to come back fail. If it's on the borderline, it's going to tell us that. And finally, if you got 51 or higher, it's going to be a pass. And so the 4 steps are firstly creating the variables, using the input statement to get the user to enter the values, and obviously converting those into a numeric data type, using a formula to average the grades, and you're going to save that into the variable that you create to hold the average grade, and then finally using this if, elif, else statement. So I'm just going to open up idle again because for some reason I closed it, and I'm going to save this file as, let's just save it as average grade. So file and save as average grade, and go ahead and click on save. Let's add our comments at the beginning, program name, average grade, .py, date 2203, and author name. Okay, so just put the name in there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create the variables which are going to be used to hold the 2 grades that the user is going to type in. So I'm just going to call it grade 1, and obviously we'll have grade 2 as well. I might as well set them up at the same time. So grade 1 is a variable name, assignment operator equals, input statement, obviously we want to get the user to type in the value, enter the score for grade 1, colon, space, close your quotation marks, close your parameters. And for this particular situation, we're just going to change it not into a float, but into an int. It doesn't really matter here, but typically you don't put in, for a grade, you wouldn't put in a decimal number. It's going to be a whole number. And then we'll do exactly the same for grade 2, int, to convert it into an integer data type, input statement, and then we'll have the same message, enter the score, but this time we'll change it to grade 2. And don't forget 2 closing parameters. If something isn't working for whatever reason, always check the color and make sure that, for example, your strings are green, your keywords are purple, your parameters are black, and so on. Okay, so let's just add in a comment to explain what we're doing here. So create two variables which will pick in values using the input statement, and the values will be converted to int data type. Okay, so that's the first step. And the next step, as I said before, is that we want to work out what the average grade is. So I'm going to put this average grade equals, and then let's just have grade 1, that's grade 2, divide by 2. Okay, so now we know what the average grade is. And we don't want to output it, we just want to output the message, have you passed, have you failed, or are you on the borderline? So now we're going to go into the if, elif, else statement, and we're going to start, obviously, always start with if, and our first condition, if we have a look back at the 3 criteria here, so the first condition is it less than or equal to 48? So we're going to type that in, if average grade, okay, remember it's important, variable names are the same, less than or equal to 48, colon, print, no sugarcoating this, print fail. Okay, get rid of the space and type in elif. So you can have as many elif statements as you require. If you had 10 possibilities, then you could have obviously 8 elifs, 1 if and 1 else. You're always, when you use this type of statement, you're always going to have 1 if, 1 else, and like I said, the number of elifs you can have is really down to the particular scenario. In this case, we want to check whether the value falls on the border of a pass or a fail. And so to do this, we want to find out, is it 49 or is it 50? So we're going to have elif average grade, is it greater than or equal to 49? And then we're going to use, oops, I just realized I made a mistake there, average, capital G, I'll get there in the end. Okay, there we are. If average grade is greater than or equal to 49, but also we want to test, is it less than or equal to 50? And so it feels like a bit of an overkill here, but what we're going to do is use the keyword and you'll see that comes up in orange. And so we want to say and the average grade is less than or equal to 50. And so that's for our borderline data. So print borderline. Okay, and so now we're at the point where there are no more conditions really, other than the fact that it could be over 50, and we know that if it's over 50, then they have passed. We don't need to spell it out. We are simply going to have our outs and our colon, no condition needed, and we're going to print pass. Okay, and I'm just going to add in a couple more comments before we test this. So let's add in a comment here, create variable to hold average grade, and then down here we'll have if, elif, else statement to determine what message to output. Okay, so let's run this, and we are going to have to run it 3 times at least. Enter the score for grade 1. Well, I'm going to put in very low scores to begin with, so I'm going to do 20. And I failed. Oh well, too bad. Okay, let's run it again, and let's put in 100, 100. Yeah, passed. And then we're just going to, I wonder what value would get at the border. Let's go and run module, and let's put in 50, 50, borderline, perfect. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. And if it's worked successfully, save it, and then go ahead and upload it.